center of it all, it's you that I see. It's you that I see. Hello, welcome, good evening, welcome. Welcome. Go ahead and share the video, please. As you come in, as many of your friends that you think can benefit from it, go ahead. Welcome. There is power in your name. Miracles happen in your name. I salute our voice in praise. It's you that I see. It's you that I see. Sing it out. At the center of it all, it's you that I see. It's you that I see. Jesus only. It's you that I see. Welcome, welcome. At the center of it all, it's you that I see. Only you, Jesus. It's you that I see. Lift those hands there. There is power. There is power in. Hallelujah. Miracles happen. Miracles happen. Hello, good evening. Good evening on Facebook. Good evening on Instagram. You're welcome. Go ahead and share, invite your friends. How has your day been? Welcome everyone. Hello, hello. We're on Instagram. How are you doing? Thank you for joining. How are you doing? It's been a while. Good to see you. So we'll give it another minute and we'll be started. Thank you. Welcome on Facebook. It's you that I see. One more time, wherever you are, declare it. There is power in your name. Thank you, thank you. I think we're just going to get started because we have quite a bit to cover and wrap up. Hello, good evening on Facebook, good evening on Instagram. Welcome everyone. My name is Omolara Ishola. I'm the host of Possibilities Divine. Last week we started a series titled the C Series, and we're looking at the C's in a relationship. These are the C's that bring harmony, that maintain love, that maintain respect, that maintain the balance in the family, as it were. We looked at contentment last week. We also looked at collaboration. Today, quickly, we're going to be looking at compatibility. And as I was thinking about this evening and what I was going to talk about, I was just asking the Holy Spirit how to comport, how to put everything together to make it sensible to people. And I discovered that oftentimes people say we are not compatible. After years of marriage, they say we're not compatible. What does that even mean? Compatibility means that you get along with somebody very well. And so if you're going to get along with somebody, you need this in marriage. Because when you are in marriage, your privacy is invaded, your life is invaded, your space is invaded. You have to make decisions, not just general decisions, not just financial decisions, but life impacting decisions with somebody. So you will agree with me that you need to be compatible with that person. And usually for most of us, we start out on a good note. The reason why you marry the man or the woman you married is because you love them and you think, oh, we'll get along very well and we will live happily ever after. So tonight we're going to be looking at compatibility. What does this mean? In marriage, compatibility means that you work well with your spouse. you enjoy each other's company, and you work towards always having a good time together with minimal friction, as minimal friction as possible. And oftentimes when you get married, the flame, the initial eros, the youthful love is always there. Maybe love making makes you feel on top of the world. But you and I agree, for those who have been married now, even for 2, 3 years, that love making is not enough to keep a marriage alive. Love making is not enough to keep a marriage aflame. You can sleep with your husband or your wife even when you don't feel too good about them. However, it's not just enough to sleep together in marriage. You want to keep the flame alive. You want to be friends. And if you start out as friends, sometimes it is friendship that will sustain the relationship. So when love making, sex, and all that are just trying to stand the test of time, it is friendship that would step in to sustain the marriage relationship. And oftentimes, who are the people we tend to drift towards? The people who make us happy, who make us feel good, who make us laugh, who make us, they diffuse tension. You don't really like those friends who are always uptight, who are always seeing the negative things about life. You like the ones who will keep you real, who would make you laugh, who will make things light, but who would focus on those things that matter. And that is the kind of relationship that you have to develop with your spouse to make it a compatible relationship. Compatibility talks about the way we fit in a relationship. Are we compatible with each other, or is it one way? When I say is it one way, there are people who have a good time. Some men do not have an understanding of what it means to love because they have not been trained to do so. For example, a man feels, what else does a woman want? Give her money, give her money. When she asks for anything, give her money. A man says, your birthday is coming. There's no element of surprise, no sweetness, no romance. The man just says, here's the key to a Maserati. What else will a woman like? But we discover that it is not all women who just want a Maserati. Some women don't even care about cars. And as I was thinking, as I was planning for this, something came to my mind. A friend of mine said, what else will a woman like? They like bags, buy them Gucci. And it's not every woman who likes Gucci. Some women just like the time. A woman will just say, spend some time with me. While a Gucci bag might cost maybe 2,000, the woman is saying, sit with me. Let's go for coffee. Let's just, laugh over silly things. Let's just be there together. But when you don't have that understanding, you'll be like, I'm trying as a man. I spend so much money, but this woman does not appreciate. However, it goes both ways. When you are saying, my husband, I do everything to please him, I'm a slay queen, the man is not asking you to slay. The man is just asking you to be at home. That he doesn't want his business on Facebook all the time. He doesn't want his business on what you might call it, on Instagram all the time. But this is what makes you feel good. Compatibility is understanding that, okay, I have my space. I can do the things that make me happy. However, I must respect this other person's perspective. What makes them tick? What gets on their nerves? Understanding it and following that. And it's not, there are no rules. It's not simple. My husband sets the rules, or my wife has things that make her go crazy when I don't do. But understanding the other person helps you to fit in and helps you to maintain a good and peaceful relationship. And when we talk about this, sometimes we talk about a round peg and a round hole. Sometimes in a marriage relationship, compatibility means being able to fit perfectly into each other. So does that mean I'm talking about a perfect relationship? There will never be a perfect relationship. However, when you have a round peg and a round hole, all the edges are touched. It's a seamless and frictionless fit. And that is what we're looking for when we're talking about compatibility. But if it is a round peg in a square, or if it is a square peg in a round hole, we see that while one part of that relationship is enjoyed, the other part is miserable. That's why, because somebody does not feel their needs are met, somebody does not feel they are paid attention to, somebody does not feel they are valued in that relationship. In a relationship where either the husband or the wife doesn't feel valued, it is not a compatible relationship. How do you know if you fit with your partner? Reciprocity of meeting needs and fitting well is what defines compatibility. Meaning, are my needs being met emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually? Nobody should be bearing the weight in that relationship. Nobody should be a dead weight. When you understand what a dead weight means, it means it's heavy, it drags along. You can't do anything about it. But when the other party is alive and they contribute their quota, you are both having a good time. And when you both consciously look out for what delights the other party, you'll find out that you enjoy your relationship. It could be in things as little as knowing their likes. It could be in food, it could be in games. Sometimes, there are TV series that my husband will say, Malara, I watched something last night. When you have a moment, I'm sure you will like it. There was a series, actually, he knows I like things that have to do with CIA, FBI, espionage, and things like that. And so he would say, I found a series, you will like it. And true to type, I will like it. And then, when I have a minute or two, I get entertained and that by such things. So understanding that shows that you are paying attention to your partner. And it's not only FBI CIA series that I watch here, so you don't go away thinking no. So I watched Nigerian movies and the really traditional ones where they're speaking Yoruba, and we'll be having a field day laughing and repeating some of the things that are said there. It could be music, it could be food, it could be clothing item, it could be, but you know what? Compatibility also means you pay attention to the little details of the things that make the other person happy. So I will stumble on a version or a scripture version that I will come back home and I will be talking about it. Do you pay attention to those things in your relationship? That's how you build friendship. Christmas movies. Yes, hope you remember how we sat down and were watching movies over the Christmas 4 years ago. Things like that. It helps you. And there's some things that my husband will say, I watched something yesterday, it was so irritating. You will not like it. And I too will do the same. So sometimes you go out, you see things that would make the other party happy, and you bring it to their view, you bring it to their attention. Um, Compatibility means making sure the other party is not miserable. What does that mean? You're the only one who enjoys Yoruba movie, and you're constantly forcing your husband to watch it. Compatibility means what will make the other person happy. So when I pay attention to the things that make my husband happy, compatibility means he also pays attention to the things that will make me happy. And so we are both excited. We're both enjoying the relationship. We're both enjoying the ride. Somebody is talking about, maybe tobogganing and things like that. Those things are Canadian stuff. If I am married to an African man who does not like the snow, who does not like to play out in the snow, but I say, oh, I did this with my group at work. It was so much fun. Let us go. And my husband said, no, please, I don't want to do it. By saying, come on, that's what you do, that means I'm not considering his interest, and vice versa. So it's very important for us to look out for what will make the other person excited, for what will make them tick, for what they like and the things that they don't particularly like. Compatibility means knowing our bounds. So but understanding boundaries in relationship, that is how you know you are compatible with somebody. But somebody that is constantly blurring the lines of boundaries in a relationship, you will always make the other party miserable. How do you know if you fit with your partner? I mentioned that already. You reciprocate love in something as simple as, I will use an example. Many years ago, there's a mall here. It's called the Yorkdale Mall. It's a beautiful mall. Every time I'm coming from work or my husband is coming from work, there's a particular place we go. It's a bakery, and there are fresh items that I like. I would always buy that, and over time, anytime either of us pass through Yorkdale, we will buy one of the items from the bakery. And that's how you know. So when I see an item from that bakery, I'll know that, okay, my husband has passed through Yorkdale and he remembers to buy that for me. Compatibility doesn't happen in one day. Somebody says, I have tried, my husband is this. I have tried, my wife is that. Compatibility happens over time. It's just like each one of you adjusting to the other over the years. You learn about the other party. You understand the other party. A friend of mine once told me that her husband is he's a sophisticated guy. But when she told me the kind of music he sometimes liked to listen to in his down moments, I couldn't believe it. I laughed because this is a Christian brother, holy, wonderful, but he has some Ibadan traits running in him. So there are certain music that they listen to, perhaps in his subconscious. That's just how he reaches back to his background and his hood. And he just likes that in the privacy of his home. So if you are married to that kind of person and you take a video of him, maybe when he's dancing to that kind of music, and you post it onto Facebook or onto social media, you are making a mockery of him. You are ridiculing him because while he likes that, he's not being hypocritical. He's not living a life, but he just likes that in his own private world. Maybe it just helps him to, be nostalgic or whatever. So you leave that. You understand that he likes this, but he doesn't want the whole world seeing him doing that. Not because he's hypocritical, but just because he just likes his privacy like that. And the same goes for a woman. You want to give your wife a gift. She doesn't want everybody on social media to know that she has bought a new car. So don't go and ask somebody to film you and post it. Presenting my wife with her surprise. Latest 2020 Jaguar. No, there are people who are like, no, please, I don't want that. I don't want the whole world knowing my business. And compatibility is understanding what your spouse likes, what your spouse like, and what they don't like. Compatibility, you were raised differently. I think I mentioned that. I am raised differently from my husband. There are certain things that my husband will do that I'll just stare at him in shock. There are some other things that I will do too that he will look at me and he'll be like, okay, all right. And over the years, we've understood each other that this makes this person happy, this frustrates them, this they like to do, this they don't. And once you understand it, it is a conscious effort that you make. It doesn't happen in one day. And as it happens, it's just like the miracle that Jesus did in the book of Luke, chapter 17. When those 10 lepers came to him, Jesus spoke over their lives, and they weren't transformed right there and then. As they went on their way, they just observed that we have become healed, we have become changed. And so that's what happens in marriage sometimes. Again, I was talking about compatibility, your exposure. If you were raised in Canada, but Canada is too far. If you were raised in Lagos, on Victoria Island, and you marry a guy who was raised in Ajegunle, trust me, your views about life will be different. And if you are married, you need to understand. You can't constantly say, this is how we did it. Well, this is how I was raised. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. As a man, you can't force a woman to understand the traits of or how to function in a jegule in 1 year. Neither can you upgrade a woman, to how to function. Yes, or akure, you can't begin to immediately force things down their throat. Somebody who was raised, I'm an Ekiti girl, and I still marvel at how people in Ekiti eat. They can eat inyo is pounded yam. They can eat that morning, afternoon, and night, and they don't feel overwhelmed by it. And you're married to a guy who eats breakfast. It's English breakfast, bacon, sausage, and all that. And you're like, when I eat bacon and sausage, my stomach begins to hurt because it's just like snack. So by 11 o'clock, I need to eat something else. And the guy is looking at you strangely as if, what planet are you from? Calm down. We will all be all right at the end of the day. You adjust one to another. After a while, the woman who's used to eating pounded yam in the morning will want to step up her game. The man who's used to eating a big meal, after a while, will have to learn how to eat bread, especially if you're outside, that it is not every time that you have to be looking for pounded yam at 7 o'clock in the morning. So those are some of the little ways that you have to adjust to one another as you go on in marriage. And sometimes, if you understand that what makes my husband feel important is giving him pounded yam in the morning, then maybe as a woman you have to step up your game and learn how to make that and just say, okay, I cannot eat pounded yam at 6 o'clock in the morning. I will stick to my bread and bacon while I make yam for him. That's compatibility. Sometimes it involves a bit of sacrifice, but I guarantee you it fosters bliss and harmony. Adjustments are allowed in a marriage relationship. You have to study your spouse consciously and intentionally. What do they like? What do they dislike? How does my spouse react to situations? For example, family situations, extended family issues, immediate family issues. How do they relate to friends? How do we relate to issues? And you need to find out sometimes why they react to certain things. There are times when my husband doesn't get upset about a whole lot of things. And there are a few instances when he gets upset, I pay attention. And before I even approach the subject matter at all, I apologize on behalf of what is not my business. Because I know on a good day, he's a sensible person. He doesn't get upset. He doesn't get worked up. And so if he's getting worked up, I know there must be a reason behind it. And I try to understand. That way I pacify him and then lay whatever the issue is at to rest. So it is intentionality where to become compatible with your spouse. You don't just say, what is it? Why are you always like this? No, you are not accusatory when you're trying to be compatible in a relationship. Because, like I said, when you're compatible, it's always constantly a mode of happily ever after. And if that's what you're looking forward to, you need to work on that. It is work too. For you to be compatible with your spouse, pay attention to the things they say. And as I was preparing this, a particular line that the Holy Spirit laid on my heart is the stories that have when we were younger, they contain valid and important information about your spouse. Somebody says, when we were younger, whenever we go to Uncle X's house, this is what his wife used to do to us. When we were younger, my auntie used to do XYZ. And when you pay attention to when we were younger, somebody says, when we were younger, for Christmas, we couldn't afford to kill a chicken. So we will have to go to the market early and buy fish and they tell you the when we were younger story, pay attention. Compatibility comes when you pay attention to the when we were younger stories. You are able to deduce certain things that you make up for. For example, a guy who can afford anything now, but tells you the story of when we were younger and he spent Christmas at his uncle or his aunt's, and they did not serve him meat. You understand now why he eats. When you serve him, he doesn't, even if he doesn't eat the meat, he wants you to fill a bowl with 10 pieces of meat, and he'll probably take one, but he wants you to put it in front of him like that because it is because of the when we were younger. So you as a woman, you're like, I don't know, I don't understand. My husband likes too much meat. And you're like, and yet he just it's just one piece, but he just likes the decoration. It is because of the when we were younger stories. A girl tell you, or it tells you, oh, the woman tells you, when we were younger, we weren't permitted to wear, Christmas wears. When I was living with my auntie, or when we were younger, a woman buys all the gadgets in the house, and you're like, this is crazy. Why? She says, when we were younger, I used to grind pepper on the stone with my hand when I lived with my aunt. So that is why she's buying every gadget to make herself feel good. As a man, when you understand that her, you will buy her the latest bullet blender, the latest ninja, the latest everything, because it will make her happy when we were younger. So pay attention to the when we were younger stories. What is my spouse love language? That is important. Compatibility comes when you speak your spouse's love language. Not only speak it, but you speak it fluently. Gary Chapman did a very good job when you read the book, The Five Love Languages. It talks about some people's love language is service. When a man looks very sexy, when you have a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son, and they are running you sane, for me not to say something negative, and the man goes to work, he comes back, you haven't had your shower, you're running around. This is targeted towards young marriages, and I have a young person, and I have someone who would appreciate this. Your daughter, who is about 2.5 or 3, is running about the house, throwing things all over the place, and you've been doing house chores all morning. The little one is sleeping, you're changing diapers, you're doing laundry, you're cleaning, you're cooking, and sometimes you're wondering why is life treating me like this. And your husband comes in looking handsome in his suit or whatever he wore to work, smelling like $1 million in his beautiful perfume. And you look at yourself in your t-shirt, you haven't even removed the net from your hair that is standing up. And the man comes in and he says, baby, you look beautiful. You look at him and you're like, stop teasing me. And he says, go relax, go shower. I'll take it over from here. Trust me, there is nothing as sexy as that when you do that as a man. But when you come in and you say, why you've been home all day? Why is the house upside down like this? Have you, I mean, come on. What if somebody was coming with me? What if I was bringing in a guest? To a woman who has been running helter skelter, that is demoralizing. But when you understand that, when I come in the evening, even though I'm tired after my long day's work, when I step in and I step into my wife's world and I take up what has been stressing her so far, I change the dynamics. So by the time you give that woman room, you won't have to beg for sex, trust me. You come in, you step in, and you're like playing with the children, saying, "Oh my goodness, why is the diaper wet? I'll go and change it." And you play with the children. The woman is looking at you. You are not only handsome because of the smell of your perfume. You're not only handsome because of your Ferragamo shirt, but you are handsome because you care. You are handsome because you are paying attention and you are speaking her love language. And the same goes for you as a woman. What is your spouse's love language? Learn to speak it. Some men just love their wife to be with them, to feed them. They don't want to eat out. They just want what you cook. And you say, I don't who has time. I don't have time. If you don't have time, order something nice and decent and serve it beautifully well on the dinner table. And make it does he won't ask who made this. Even if he does, it doesn't matter by the time his belly is full and he enjoys it. Speak your spouse's love language. And if you've never heard that, I did a series on that, I think about a year or two, maybe in the new year, if God permits. I might do another series on the love language and how it relates to us in a marriage relationship. Today, we're talking about the C of compatibility in marriage. Compatibility happens by realizing that I will never be able to change my spouse to be like me, but I can work towards overlooking our differences. Yes, when we marry, opposite attracts, remember that? And so when you marry somebody who is extremely different from you, realize that down the road, the things that attracted you will begin to repel you after a while. Maybe you're very quiet, you're an introvert, and you marry a woman who's always all over the place, dynamic, you know, a party pop, life of any party. And after a while, the same things that attracted to you begin to repel you because you're like, why can't she just keep quiet? Why is she always noisy? It's because opposite attracts, and after a while, opposite begin to repel themselves for the same reason they attracted in the first place. So you need to understand that. I need to overlook the difference that I have between my husband and I. I need to understand that I have to adjust to my husband. When I first got married, my husband would sing. Anything could become a song theme. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. For example, if you say it's snowing, he will find a song that has snow to it. And especially if I'm, and I get irritated by that. And so the first year of marriage, I was constantly irritated. And he too gets irritated by some things that I do. But over time, when he sings the song from whatever I say, I start dancing. And it doesn't upset me the way it used to upset me. Have you tried finding humor in the things that upset you? And I'm not talking about abuse now. Every time I'm talking about marriage, I'm not talking about accommodating abuse. I'm not talking about adjusting to being treated shabbily. I'm talking about the interpersonal differences. And oftentimes those are the things that would create friction in a marriage relationship. For example, your husband just he likes to talk big. He likes to talk big. And sometimes you just feel like, oh, come on, you're too much of talk and little substance. Don't say that to a man. I was talking to a lady one time and she wanted to report her husband to me. And she said it in her native language, in Yoruba. She said, and I said to him, you, this child, just translate that. I mean, just try and imagine that in Yoruba. He said, she was referring to her husband and she said, and I said to him, you, this child. I said, you said what? She said, I told him, I said, you, this child. I said, you are calling your husband a child? Said yes, because what he was saying does not make it did not make any sense. I said, a point of correction. A man, no matter how young you may think he is the head of his home, and you must accord him the necessary respect. When you accord your husband the necessary respect, you magnify him, you big him up, he automatically assumes that position. But when you ridicule him by saying this child, even your own child, it gets to a point where you do no longer call them children. So you need to pay attention to this. If you're married to a man who likes, my friend would say, "Oh, I have a friend who likes my brother-in-law likes to be treated like a chief." Meanwhile, my husband is a very, dude kind of person. So if you're married to a person who likes to be treated like a chief, you had better begin to learn how to call him chief and appreciate him and celebrate him for the little things that he does. And it's so important for you to understand this so that there will be less friction. If your husband likes to be treated like a big man and you're constantly telling him, what is it? What is it? Ridiculing him, reducing him, you will always have issues. And there are women who likes to be called madam, they like to be treated like big women. If your wife belongs to that league, call her madam, call her things like that. Maybe she doesn't like being called. For example, my husband calls me, when he calls me Molara, I know it's a serious issue. He calls me baby on a regular basis. Or when he calls me mommy, I know he wants to get me into trouble. When he says our mommy, he's trying to tell me respect yourself and step into your role. And so there are so many ways that you can understand each other through the things you say. Understand your spouse's love language. And compatibility happens by realizing, like I said, you will never change this person, but you can adjust to the differences that you share. Does your husband like to spend to impress? There is a reason for it. Like I mentioned earlier, does your wife like to hoard? She hoards everything. She clutters and buys, and you're wondering what's the problem with this woman. There is a reason for it. Try to understand it. Once you understand it, it will no longer drive you crazy. Time has escaped. I was hoping we could talk about consistency quickly. If you don't mind another 10 minutes, just show me thumbs up just so that I know you're with me. Otherwise, I'll wrap up here. So if you want me to continue, just show me thumbs up. Anybody? Otherwise, I'll wrap up now. Thumbs up, anybody? I can't see any thumbs up, so I'll wrap up. Literally, I will wrap up now if I don't see anybody showing thumbs up. All right. It's 6:30. This is about the size of it. I'm going to wrap up here. The Lord bless us. And I hope, with compatibility, we can go into our marriage. Okay. Just when I was about to wrap up. Okay. All right. We'll go for another 10 minutes. Thank you. Consistency. Consistency is one of the things that is important in a marriage relationship. Oh, you found it finally. Oh, say, thank you, because I can't find my thumbs. All right. All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks. Consistency, conformity in the application of something, typically that which is necessary for the sake of logic, accuracy, or fairness. Thank you, guys. Thank you. The guys on Instagram are they're so active. Thank you. Facebook, I didn't see. Thank you, Juliet. Thanks. Consistency is conformity in the application of something, typically that which is necessary for the sake of logic, accuracy, or fairness. I would like to compare consistency in the way we learn to understand each other in a marriage relationship with what we do at work. My very first job in Canada, I was working in a coffee store. And I didn't understand what it meant to have the same taste because I was not a coffee drinker at that time. Every time you go to work, we had a cup with which we scoop coffee into the coffee container before we brew it. You can't say I'm in a hurry and put 1.5 cups of coffee where you're supposed to put two. Your clients will complain because it will not be the same taste. It's the same thing when you are not consistent in the way you show love, in the way you show appreciation, in the way you relate with your spouse. Somebody says, I am not in a good mood today. I don't even feel like. So when you are in a bad mood, you don't want to cook, you don't want to tidy the house, you don't want to play with anybody because you are in a bad mood. So when you are out of that bad mood, you expect life to pick up, and then your husband is back to who he normally is, or your wife is back to who she normally is. When you are in a bad mood, you don't want to play around, you don't want to flirt, you don't want to kiss, you don't want to talk, you don't want to touch, you don't want to do any of those things. Why? Because you are in a bad mood. And how many of us, and I'm going to address women now, when you are in a bad mood, do you not know that you taint and you change the ambience and the atmosphere in your home? As a man, when you are in a bad mood, you come in and everybody's running around. You are like the lion of a tribe of your family, and everybody is afraid because they know that daddy's in a bad mood. It doesn't breed consistency. So there is instability, emotional instability in your home. But when it's generally a jolly, good mood atmosphere in the home, you'll see that there will be an untold peace. You'll just enjoy. You will look for the man will look forward to going home. The woman will look forward to going home. Consistency. Do you gossip with your husband? And gossiping does not mean, you're talking about other people. When I come back from work, I will tell my husband every single thing. And you know what? He will listen. So there was a day I came back and said, remember my colleague? And poor guy, I caught him. I think I talk about so much about work that he can't keep a tab, and he'll just be nodding and he'll be amusing me by humoring me by just nodding. Oh yeah, she did that. Oh wow. And so I now asked him a question. He said, baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sure which of them are you talking about. And I laughed so hard because I know he just goes with the flow just to make me happy. Do you do the same with men? Don't talk like we do. Men don't talk like women do. But what matters to your husband? Do you pay attention to it? Do you maintain peace, or you're constantly, and then don't be accusatory. That's another thing. Ah, and our backgrounds affect us. Maybe you grew up in a family that is like that. Learn. Lara David Odifo says, sounds like me. Learn how to maintain peace in your family. Don't let the atmosphere in your family be full of tension. If it is not your sister-in-law that did something wrong, it is your mother-in-law. If it is not that, it is your brother-in-law, or it is your friend. Excuse me. Let the atmosphere in your home, let it have a good tone. Let it have a good feel, so that you're constantly learn to talk about light issues. I'm not sure how to put that in a succinct way. However, that is what I feel about consistency. When it's always about, in 5 years, if you do not save up in 5 years, what will life be like? Come on, you work towards it, you set goals, but for us to achieve goals, sometimes it's beyond us. It's in God's hands. How many of us set goals for 2020? There are some goals that we met for 2020. There are some goals we will never meet. And there's some goals that we met by divine intervention, for which we have to be grateful. This year, I was just content with just going with the flow. But there were certain things that God did at work that I still stand in awe of Him, that I didn't even anticipate that. What about your own family? When we live one day at a time, sweet Jesus, with our plans in place, but we hand everything over to God, we will experience peace. Remember, I talked about contentment last week, not comparing notes with anybody. Somebody comes and they said, we're going next year, we're going to, where's the one of the strangest places? Don't lose your peace between now and then, because maybe COVID will not allow them to go. But even if they go, God bless them. Don't allow consistency in your family. Over time, what are those things that you enjoy doing? Keep the traditions of happiness. Keep the traditions of happiness. Do you have any tradition in your home? If you don't, get some, find some. Sister Lanre, yeah. Thank you. And showing love. Yes. Thank you. Showing love. There are ways that you show consistency. But when somebody gives you a gift, and you look at the gift, and you look at the gift, your spouse has given you a gift, you don't know what effort the woman or the man has put into it, and you look at it and you're like, and then you remember Stephanie at work, who said, do you know that my husband yesterday, he just took me to the garage, and oh my god, there was a big bow, a big ribbon on a big car. Oh, he bought me this pair of shoes. Oh, he ordered in this for Christmas. Now I've been getting surprises, and now you want to lose your peace. You need to maintain peace in your home, consistency, being grateful for what you have, looking forward to where you're going, having your own tradition, maintaining it. I remember the early days of marriage. My friend is online. My husband and I were just reminiscing about those days. We didn't have much, but we were very content. We were happy. Christmas Eve, we had a tradition. We'll all go around, or we'll go to their apartment or come to our apartment. We will talk. The men will be talking about Afghanistan and American politics. We will be cooking and having all sorts and just chilling at that phase. It was so now we still do whatever we can do within our space. So when somebody tells you we killed hippopotamus for Christmas, thank God for them. If you can only kill fish and be happy. Consistency. When you're consistent, you can get very far. But when you're haphazard and you're always stretching out and looking into other people's world, you will never be satisfied. Do you have traditions? How do you do things in your home? How do you handle finances? Does everybody do their own thing? We talked about collaboration last week. When you collaborate, you're able to go far. How do you handle sex? Consistency. When you're upset, there's no sex. It's a weapon. That is very wrong. When One of the things you need to settle is that there are certain things that I will not deny my spouse. When I'm upset with my husband, he knows that he can't even begin to talk about sex until we iron out the issue. And sometimes it could be that, when you're upset, you need to talk about it and eventually will lead to Jerusalem. Gratitude is key. It has solved so many issues. Yes. One of the things that you need to understand is that how do you handle sex? You need to understand that sex is not a weapon as a woman. I don't hold it against my husband. So if I have an issue with him and we've not been able to sort, so talks about sex, that is when I will brandish it. That's childish and immature. Consistency means, okay, we have our differences. Let's talk about it, and then we will take. But sex must never be a weapon. It must be that icing on your cake part time. And consistency, most of the time, is in your hands as a woman. Contentment, yes, Juliet, contentment is also key. We spoke about contentment last week. We also talked about collaboration. Today we're talking about compatibility, and now we're talking about consistency. How do you handle outside influences? How do you handle outside influences? You have to be consistent. And most of the time, the men have a greater role to play. From day one, my husband set very clear boundaries. I do not cross over, my in laws do not cross over. If any in law tries to cross over to walk all over me, my husband will stand up to his full stature. I have seen that played so many times that I revere him. I have a high level of respect for my husband. And it's important for you to also know your own boundary as a woman. I see a lot of women listening to me. Consistency is understanding again, all of the C's will add up to give you peace in your marriage when you pay attention. You have to set boundaries in every area of your life in order to maintain consistency. You set boundary with your children. You set boundary with money. You set boundary with outside influence. Your children come, your friends come, and they take over the place. Maybe where women, when your husband is at home, don't stay on the phone for the longest time and be chatting, everything. If you know it irks your husband, respect him when he's in that. If you, I have friends that we can't talk for anything. When we talk, it's minimum is 30 minutes. But whenever either of our spouses around, if we're not going to get them, if it's just our personal conversation, you just say, okay, all right, thank you. We'll chat. We'll catch up later. That is a way of honoring her husband. But your husband is at home, you haven't cooked for him, you haven't welcomed him, and you carry on with long conversations on the phone. That is not good. It's showing disrespect, and the man may not talk, but over time, he may be irked. And if he's corrected, you want to better go and check yourself and make sure you adjust it. You have to set boundaries in almost every area of your life to maintain consistency. Children experience stability and growth where there is routine and consistency. When we as parents are consistent in the show of love one to another, when we're consistent in the traditions we have in our home, when we're consistent with, this includes prayer altar, prayer routine, just making sure things are in order, not just haphazard. Do we cook? Do they have days they do their laundry? Do we have order towards everything? This consistency will help the children to grow and become responsible. Many months ago, I talked about that, what every organization will send their workers, and I'm going to wrap up on this. Every organization will send their workers through training. Why do we train people? So that they will be able to understand how things work within a company, so that you'll be able to understand the mission, the vision of an organization. You'll be able to understand the atmosphere, the language. You'll be able to understand how you fit in. Every group has its own dynamism. And when you're talking about consistency, Bruce Talkman recognized 5 stages in group development. We all go through this when we go for training. We're talking about the 5 stages: orientation, power struggle, cooperation and integration, synergy and closure. These if I sit down with this, it will take me like another hour to break this down. But you can read up on Bruce Tucker. There are stages of forming, there are stages of storming, there are stages of norming, stages of performing in marriage, as well as stages of adjourning and adjusting. When you realize that, you will be able to fit into it and you will be able to establish consistency in your marriage. On this note, I am going to wrap up. Go away with something. Your spouse has a language, love language. Go and learn it and speak it fluently. And in so doing, you are modeling what you want him or her to do. And when you both speak each other's love language, you'll see that there will be no friction, there will be mutual understanding. And I hope this has helped you one way or the other. You can share this with your friends or anybody that you think can benefit from this. God bless you. On this, we're going to end the series. I want to appreciate everyone who has been a part of this conversation today. Thank you for the contribution. Um, yes, Sister Larry. Sister Larry is talking about, her contemporaries at work getting gifts. And he said, because I later had to accept my own marital and cultural limitations, and instead of waiting for him, absolutely, I initiated it. So there are certain things that you have to model to your spouse. For example, if you have a spouse who doesn't understand the importance of flower and you love flowers, you love chocolates, model it. Don't wait and don't get mad, don't get upset. Work towards, model the things that you like, initiate, insinuate, and call your spouse's attention to it directly or indirectly. And you'll find out that by the time you do it, you will have bliss. I pray tonight. Let's hear a word of prayer before I wrap up. And I'm going to, on this note, invite you for our Redeeming 2020 next week, Wednesday, by the grace of God. That's December 30th. We're going to be having a Redeeming 2021, praying about the new year. And I have no doubt in my mind that it will be a year of blessings. It will unfold gloriously to us all in Jesus' name. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for Instagram, my friends on Instagram. Thank you for those on Facebook. I appreciate you. And it is my pleasure to be a blessing. Father, we want to thank you for everyone who has joined tonight. I want to thank you for every home where the enemy is threatening. I thank you, Father God, because through the understanding of your word, we are able to move ourselves forward. We come against every spirit, oh God, of friction in homes and marriage and relationship. Every area where the enemy wants to destroy and disrupt our peace. We put an end to his work. We ask for understanding. We ask for wisdom to be able to have peace, enjoy what you have given unto us, and build a home that will glorify your name, where our children will be nurtured in fear and favor and in peace in the name of Jesus. As we go into the Christmas season, we come against every spirit of friction, of quarrel, of disagreement in the name of Jesus. But we receive peace. We enjoy the season with our family. We thank you for all that you have given unto us. And we know you will take us into the new year stronger and better in Jesus' name. Thank you, everyone. God bless you as you get ready for Christmas. Every woman, can I encourage you? If you're a woman, don't get miserable, don't get frustrated. Buy a gift for yourself. Remember, please don't focus only on yourself. If you've not bought a gift for yourself, don't feel left out. Go and buy a gift for yourself, wrap it and put it under the table, under the tree, and enjoy the fact that where you are is not the limit. There is so much that God has in store for you, especially in 2021. Let us build broken bridges. If you have a relationship where you're like, oh, no, I'm just going to do my thing, it would not benefit you. Let us focus on the C's. Let us learn consistency, contentment, compatibility, and collaboration. On this note, I'm signing out. God bless you. Bye now.